Welcome back to WMBF News This Week. If you've been keeping your eye on the political run for president in 2012, you know that there are a few names out there. Newt Gingrich, though, the first one to appear in our studios and now talking with us about a number of options that you'd like to see happen, potentially, if running for president in 2012. During this time, of course, you're meeting with the Grand Strand Business Association as the keynote speaker. Talk, if you can, a little bit about what you hope to get across to leaders here in the Grand Strand.
Well, let me say, first of all, it's a very intriguing business organization because they've done a brilliant job of marketing tourism here. And as a result, they've had a huge economic impact on the total number of tourists, but also the number of people who come down and have their retirement homes here. And they've been a big part of the economic growth of the region. So it was a great honor to me to have a chance to talk with folks like that and to talk about job creation, because when you come down to it, that's what they're all about. And I think in this kind of economy, with the unemployment rate we have here in South Carolina right now, having people who actually know about creating jobs is a big deal. I'm trying to convince the House Republicans that they ought to have a series of hearings where the only people who get to come are people who've actually created jobs. Not academics, not union leaders, not government bureaucrats, but people who've actually created, whether it's 10 jobs or 1,000 jobs, and listen to genuine job creators. Tell them about what needs to be done in order to make it easier to create jobs in America. And
that's your admission ticket if you brought some jobs. Interesting. A number of veterans here in the Grand Strand area as well. Talk, if you can, about the defense budget and how that could impact people here living in the Grand Strand.
Well, I'm very concerned about the what looks like will be an Obama effort to dramatically cut the defense budget. We are still engaged in 2 wars in Iraq and in Afghanistan. We have a campaign underway against terrorism that runs from places like Somalia and Eritrea, really around the planet. We have a need to reinvest in Navy and Air Force equipment in order to be competitive with China in particular. And I think at the same time we have to recognize that shrinking the size of the Army and the Marine Corps at a time when they're still going to have this huge duty underway is very dangerous. So I hope everybody who is concerned about national security will pay very careful attention to what's going on and will make sure that their congressman and their senator know how they feel about defending America and about keeping us safe.
Let's talk about health care. Of course, the difficult issue for so many. So much has been debated about it. Should you be involved in office in the next couple years, assuming that the Senate wouldn't veto this current plan, what would you propose we do with the healthcare system?
Well, I think every Republican candidate for president is going to campaign to repeal Obamacare. And I think that if the Republicans win, that Obamacare will be repealed by March or April 2013. It was a bill which was imposed on the American people against their will. There's never been a single poll that shows a majority favoring it. And I think the American people in the end are going to be able to impose their will on the politicians. But that doesn't mean we want to go back to the past. I mean, the past didn't work either. One of the most exciting things I'm working on is very dramatic breakthroughs in healthcare. I chaired an Alzheimer's study group with Senator Bob Kerrey, a former Democrat senator from Nebraska. We currently are working on a regenerative medicine group, the ability to grow a kidney or to grow a bladder or to grow your spinal cord so that if you're in an injury, you can literally regrow yourself. There are some breakthroughs. In 1999 at Harvard, they had a study and 7 young people had pieces of their own cells taken out, grew bladders, put the bladders in, there's no rejection because it's your own body, and all 7 are alive today. Now, for example, either for bladder cancer patients or for children born with a very unique disease in which their bladder tends to fail, leading them into kidney failure. This is a great breakthrough. There's a group I just talked to yesterday who are engaged in developing a kidney cell transplant that will eliminate most kidney dialysis. And kidney dialysis is $27 billion a year. My uncle went through it for a number of years before he passed away. And it's very debilitating. You spend 3 days a week at the kidney dialysis. I mean, it's really not the way you'd like to live. 20% of all dialysis patients die every year. So you look at that kind of thing. We're working with somebody in Georgia who's himself a bicycle accident made him a quadriplegic. And he has real resources, and he's a very smart entrepreneur. And again, you see these opportunities where we're being to be able to actually grow spinal cord to cross the place that's broken in ways that almost seem like miracles. So part of my message is, if we can get breakthroughs on Alzheimer's and on kidney dialysis and on 3 or 4 other things, we can dramatically lower the cost of health care without having to get involved in bureaucracy and punishing doctors and closing down hospitals and cutting off senior citizens. But this is a bold, innovative, science-based approach that's very different from most politicians.
It's interesting as well, too. For people watching out there that say, look, 2012 seems like a long time away, you know it's not at all. What would your message be to people out there who maybe haven't done as much research about your efforts or even other candidates' efforts, with the goal, I'm assuming from your side, is to not have a Democrat as president in 2012?
Well, I mean, look, my real message is an old-fashioned citizenship message. We live in an age of Google and Facebook and YouTube. Everybody has a chance to learn about anybody. And I would say to people, you're going to have a whole bunch of candidates, a lot of very smart people. I mean, you look at a Mitt Romney or a Mike Huckabee, Sarah Palin, you look at Governor Mitch Daniel, Governor Tim Pawlenty, Governor Haley Barbour, Senator John Thune, Senator Rick Santorum. These are all competent people. All of them are going to be available on the internet. Everybody who's watching us is going to be able to learn more about candidates than anybody in human history ever could before. And at some point, we'll pick a nominee. Now, I think if we pick somebody who is able to articulate a fundamental contrast with Obama, then I think we have a very high likelihood of succeeding. And frankly, if the president doesn't get the economy growing, the country's going to they're just going to fire him, because this country won't tolerate 9 or 10% unemployment for 4 straight years.
Regardless of who would become elected president in 2012, how critical is bipartisanship in working? It's always been.
It's always critical to reach out and get the maximum support. When we passed welfare reform, which was very controversial, requiring people to either go to work or go to school, we got half the Democratic Party. 101 Democrats voted yes and 101 voted no. And that was very important in having a broad national consensus. It's what Obama missed on the health plan. You don't pass a really big reform on a narrowly partisan basis.
Interesting to say. In about 30 seconds, anything else in To Save America, your book, that you hope people, even if whether they agree with you or not, that you hope they at least read it?
The key thing about To Save America is that the new paperback edition actually follows up on the election of 2010, has advice for the new Republican majority, and has really been updated in that sense and modernized. But it's essentially, here's what a secular socialist machine is, and here are a whole bunch of solutions that will get America to a better future.
And people can read that, of course, right now. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's out there for people to pick up and research. Newt Gingrich, of course, we appreciate your time today. Any final thought, any final word for anybody watching here in the Grand
Let me just say, sometimes we have challenges. This is the most amazing country in human history. It is going to continue to be that amazing. We ought to have faith that we're at the beginning of a renaissance of new American ideas and new American solutions. And I think in the next 10 to 15 years, we will once again leave our competitors behind.
Potential presidential candidate for 2012, Newt Gingrich, thanks so much for your time today.
Good to be here.
And that wraps up this edition of WMBF News This Week. Thanks for joining us. Of course, we'll be back here next week with the very latest topics. Have a great weekend.